Hello! Welcome back to another Saturday stream. I hope everybody's had a good week. I hope the weekend is treating you well so far. Mine's actually been pretty good this week for a change. I think I've opened with I've had a rough week for the last like 2 months, it feels like. I kind of finally caught a break this week, so it's nice to have a relatively low stress week for a change. Anyway, we've got a couple of folks in here already. I was chatting with a Ryzen 9 3900 XT here before the stream started. It looks like Charlotte Thorne is also here. So the last 2 weeks, I bought this $20 box of scrap graphics cards on eBay, and I'm like, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's just rifle through them on a live stream. That'd be a good time. And it turned out to be a really good time. It was quite fun. I enjoyed it. Y'all enjoyed it. We found some real gems, including this fairly good-looking 3DFX Voodoo graphics in the box, which kind of blows my mind. I've had a chance to look at it a little closer now. So there are a couple of issues. There's some bent wires here on the TMU and on the FBI. We know it works. At stock speeds it works. It doesn't like being overclocked, so maybe bending those wires back would help with that. But today is a little different, even though it's another bunch of graphics cards that we're testing, because these are cards that I just bought. These are ones that I'm either looking to do an upcoming episode on, or I just wanted to have in the collection, but I haven't had enough time to get around to testing them. So apologies, I'm going to use your Saturday to test these things. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, because I think some of these are really, really strange. I have some oddballs in the mix today. And in fact, we're starting out with one such oddball, which is the Matrox G550, which is on the bench right now. We were going to... So in this case, like, it was funny when a card didn't work when it came out of the $20 box, right? Because haha, whatever, put it on the dead pile, who cares? These, if they don't work, I'm a little annoyed because I've spent actual money on these things, hoping they would work so I could use them in a video and show you guys how they work. We had a casualty already before the stream started, because I wanted to start us out with one of these functioning so we could have a kind of a baseline. And I started with this one. Where did I put it? There it is. Started with this one, which looks a lot like an original GeForce, but it's not. It's about as far from an original GeForce as you can get while looking like one. This is an S3 Savage4 Pro, and it works great until you load drivers for it, and then it blue screens the whole computer. So that's not fantastic. I'm going to try that before I say this one's dead. I'm going to try this in a slower machine and see if it works a little bit better. But this would be the first card, if that's what it is, this would be the first card that doesn't actually work in the K7S5A, which would be weird. This is my second attempt to get a working Savage4 to demonstrate on a video, because, I don't know, I guess they weren't terribly great. I mean, of course they weren't great. Nobody bought them. But I have a Savage4 LT, which is the one most people see. It's the one by number 9. It's the cost-reduced model with the I think the die shrink. It's basically the same card. It's not a whole lot different than the Pro. But this one has a fan on it, so I hoped, hey, maybe it would run for more than 5 minutes before locking the whole computer up. No, it doesn't run at all. So unfortunately, that's our first casualty today. So the card that is in the test bench right now, we'll flip over to the test bench so y'all can see it. There we go. So the first card on the test bench is this bad boy, which doesn't look like a whole lot, but this is a Matrox G550. This was something. It was something. Actually watched a video recently on it from another channel. Apparently it's DirectX 8 compliant. I didn't realize that back in the day when it came out. I'm like, oh, it's just another G450. Like, all right, whatever. I think that's what most people. I think that's what most people thought about it when it came out. Oh, it's just another G450. this one does work, so we can boot this machine up and see how a G550 works, and that can be our baseline for the benchmarks coming up, hopefully. We have more than one working card today. Fingers crossed. So let's say hi to chat, because we've got a couple more folks filtering in. Charlotte Thorne says, "Oh, it's Amber's graphical adventure time." That's correct. It sure is. Hello, by the way. Chris Ducati is here. Hello, Amber. Great to see you. Can't wait to see the cards. Yeah, there's some weird ones in here. We've got Schizomaniac. Hello. Welcome to the screen. Welcome to the stream. And Compatibility Madness is here. Of course. I put some of the descriptions of the cards we're going to be testing in the description. So I think Compatibility Madness said, those look interesting. Ryzen 9 3900 XT asks, what CPU are you using? I am using a Athlon XP Thoroughbred on this K7S5A. Switch over to the desk cam again. There we go. This is 2.133 gigahertz. It's actually currently running 1600 right now, I think. We were messing around with cards the first week we started doing this, and it decided to downclock itself. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. It just took itself down to a 100 megahertz front side bus instead of 133. That's fine. That's fine. We don't need all that performance for these cards. These cards, they're not fast. They're not fast. So this is the machine. Elite Group ECS K7S5A. This is based on the SIS 735 chipset, which is a kind of a weird chipset. It's got probably its biggest party trick is it's got a 4x AGP universal AGP slot, which is extremely compatible. I looked at its this chipset's little brother a long time ago at this point in the channel. And it was close. It was real close to being pretty universal, but any AGP 8X cards you put in it wouldn't work. This has had so far no compatibility problems other than Intel 740, obviously, since it doesn't actually do normal things with the AGP bus. It makes use of undocumented AGP commands and registers. So it doesn't work real well at anything but an Intel LX or BX chipset. So, also, the other weird thing about this board, this is one of those transition boards from back in the early 2000s when we were transitioning from PC 133 SDRAM to DDR SDRAM. And in this case, I believe it can run DDR 200 SDRAM, which is 100 megahertz double pumped. That's what it's running. It's currently running a stick of 1 gig of DDR 200. It is very marginally faster using the DDR than it is using the fastest SDRAM that I have. But yeah, that's the machine. We've also got a Sound Blaster Audigy in here, and then hiding behind the Audigy is an Intel network card so that I can get stuff off of Vogonth drivers if we need it. But I should have all the drivers preloaded here. I did that this morning, so we should be good to go. So let's boot this thing up and see what we get. Let's flip over to the capture card, which is behaving today. Good. Fire this thing up. So we're starting with the G550. If I plug the thing in, that would be helpful. I am a professional. There we go. Jack68K is here. Hello, welcome. Also, Kellen is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. So for whatever reason, this thing takes forever to boot up Windows 98. I don't know why. I have no idea why. It just sits here and boots for a long time. I think, yeah, last week we pulled out the permanent DOS gaming PC and plunked it on the table, and it booted up Windows 98 like that. And that's running like a 450 megahertz Pentium 2, which doesn't make any sense. Sure. Ryzen 9 3900 XT asks RAM bandwidth. You know what? We can run SpeedSys on this. We absolutely can. I don't have a lot of DOS stuff on this thing. This is primarily meant for benchmarking Windows, benchmarking cards in Windows. But I do have the DOS bench suite on here, so we can run SpeedSys. So if we do a little expendable setup here, 800 by 600, 32-bit color. We're living in luxury. Luxury. Oh, I hit play instead of benchmark. I'm good at this. All right. Let's run that benchmark. You can see how this runs. Actually not bad. I mean, considering when it came out, it wasn't great, but considering if you consider it an evolution of the G450, it's not terrible. Although I think contemporary benchmarks placed it behind the G450 in terms of raw performance, which is kind of sad, honestly. But yeah, it's pretty smooth performance out of expendable. And this is the best we're gonna see today. So, you know, don't get used to this. For the folks who loved the Mystique the other week, I have so I got one Mystique in the box of random graphics cards. I also have the Mystique I have in my collection, which is the Mystique 220. And we'll be testing that today because I haven't actually tested to see if it works. So hopefully, fingers crossed it does. But yeah, running the Mystique through this benchmark was absolutely wild. It's so crazy to see a 3D card that can't do alpha blending correctly. Well, it does stipple alpha blending. I mean, I've run the S3 Verge through this before too, which also can't do alpha blending, but in a very different way. So anyway, this is the G550. This is the best we're going to see today. None of the other cards we're testing today are going to be tested at 800 by 600 at 32-bit color, unless we are torturing them. But just to give you an idea of a baseline, that's where we are with that. So let's start with the first card. And the first card, I think I'm going to make things hard on myself. The first card is going to be, let me flip over to the A camera here. Here we go. I think the first card I'm going to make hard on myself. This is a Diamond FireGL 1000. So this is a 3D Labs Permedia 2. So it is actually a full-featured 3D accelerator. It can do, you know, bilinear filtering, texture mapping, alpha blending. It actually can do all the stuff that you'd expect a normal 3D accelerator to do, which is not what the earlier 3D Lab chipsets can do. There's a sticker on the back. We can get this to focus. There we go. FireGL 1000. It's a classic. So the FireGL series was interesting. It was very short-lived, at least in its original form. It was short-lived. Diamond created this with, I think, the help of, I'm going to forget this because I think they created it with the help of like S3 and IBM to build workstation cards. And it was an endeavor by Diamond, who is an AIB. It would be like if MSI decided to like partner with, I don't know, Lockheed or IBM or somebody to like make a brand new set of, you know, workstation graphics cards just for them. And they came out with basically two cards, the FireGL 1000 and is it the V2000 or just a 2000? I have it in the other room. But basically they came out with two cards, decided it was a bad idea, folded the venture, and ATI bought the rights to it, sort of. Like the name FireGL was ATI's workstation cards after ATI bought up the dregs of it. Was it Diamond and ATI and IBM that did it? I don't remember. I don't remember at this point. It's been so long. But these are weird cards. Oh yeah, I should show you all of the crazy connectors and adapters that are hanging off this Matrox card. So here's the G550 that we just looked at. So that's this is a little like TV out daughter board, which looks like it exposes VGA, but it doesn't, because there's not enough pins there for VGA. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe they've got just enough pins there for like some crude VGA, but it sure doesn't look like it. It sure doesn't look like it. But yeah, it ends in a VGA connector, and the card came with one of these little dongles to convert DVI into VGA, and then this thing breaks the VGA out into, we've got component and S-video. Very weird card. Very weird card. I guess it would make sense in a home theater PC back then, but like the drivers for this card are from like 2002. There were so many better options. So many better options at that point. Oh, this was Matrox's Melee's era, right? Like once the G400 came out, then, you know, the G450 was a spec bump. They competed fairly well with like the TNT2 and the Voodoo 3. And like everyone else in the 3D accelerator market, as soon as the GeForce landed, why would you buy anything else? Why would you buy anything else? No matter what you released, if it wasn't at least as good as the GeForce or better, why would you buy anything else? ATI managed to survive it with the Radeon, thankfully, because now they're the only competition, really, that we have for Nvidia. Intel's kind of a joke these days. Oh yeah, no, I want to talk about this too. Okay, so we've got the FireGL 1000. This has a factory bodge on it. Check that out. Up there on that RAM chip. Factory bodge. I love it. So dirty. Factory bodge. Oh yeah, and our rear connectors, we've got VGA and a sync port for 3D glasses. That's for shutter-driven 3D glasses. If you're using a CRT, you could get glasses that, you know, closed alternate eyes, because the CRT, you know, scans its whatever way faster than your eyes can tell. So you can just close one half of the shutter glasses, have the CRT scan the left eye, and then close the other side of the shutter glasses, have the CRT scan the right eye. You'd never even know. Hey, 3D effect. And you say, oh, well, wouldn't that take like 120 FPS to do? I'm like, yeah, CRTs can do that easily. That's the thing, is like you weren't rendering 120 FPS, but the CRT could definitely display 120 Hertz. So hopefully this works. Let's get over to the VGA gaming scene. So now we can see the capture card. I've not tested this card. We're entering untested territory. No idea if this one works. Hey! That's a good sign. Oh, sorry, Resonine. We'll do speed test. Hang on. Starbuck Tech is here. Hello, welcome, welcome. Starbuck says adapters for the adapters. That's correct. You have gotta have the adapters for the adapters. Rose says CRTs were sick. Let's go back to the fun buzzy screens. You know, that time in our period, that period of time in our species development when we decided we all needed small particle accelerators to display images on. I've got these drivers extracted and ready to go. Let's see if this works. Install drivers. Oh, is that gonna work? Oh, please work. A bunch of the install instructions for this said that you've got to use floppy disks to get this installed. I'm like, I really hope not. Please work. That's looking promising. I would like to keep the C library, thank you. Okay. Reboot. Fingers crossed. Yeah, right. Timo is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. Timo says classic old school, 9 floppies to install the GPU. Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, oh no, you're not going to make me drag up my floppy drive, are you? Please, no. I've got one, I think. I know I've got one. I think it works in the other room. But if I don't have to, I don't want to. I could not tell you where I have any high-density floppy disks. Because I have mostly, because I've been messing around with my Mac Plus, I have mostly double-density floppy disks in the apartment these days. Hey, that's high color. Excellent. That looks like it's working. Beautiful. Wow, that gamma is wild. Okay, so let's get some display properties. What is this thing doing? Is it actually doing the... Yeah, it is. Oh, look at how smooth that is. That is some high-quality GUI acceleration. This is Windows 98, by the way. I'm cheating a little and using a USB mouse. Because, like, usually you'd need Windows, you'd need Windows 2000 for a, smooth mouse experience like that, but... Dang, oh yeah, I still have my free, I have to redeem my free AOL, I forgot. That's nice. It's not bad at all. Now, can this do anything? Is the question. Oh, do we have DirectX at all? I wouldn't expect DirectX on this. The most I would think we'd have is like OpenGL, maybe. Oh, it says we have Direct 3D acceleration. We've got DirectX 7 interfaces. Is that gonna work? Hey, look at that! That's a spinning DirectX cube. Let's torture this thing. Heck yeah! Alright, let's see how much can we make you squeal? Let's start out somewhere a little more sane. 640 by 480 by 16. Let's see what it does. It's only got 4 megs of VRAM on it, so I'm not expecting it to do like the world. But if it runs this at all, It does technically run it. I'm looking for screen tearing because I don't think it's... Yeah, it's not... I don't think it's running VSync. I'm seeing some tearing. It's not running VSync, it's just that slow. I'm impressed that it works at all, though. The minimum and maximum FPS numbers have me worried, though, that it's actually doing VSync. I swear I see tearing, though. Maybe not. Rose asks, does DirectX stand for direct acceleration? I don't know. It's just kind of a weird Microsoftism. Maybe somebody who remembers. No, 22, 23 FPS. Like, it wouldn't be giving us those numbers if it was doing VSync. It's one of those things I would expect it to be doing VSync because it's a professional card, but I also wouldn't expect it to actually run DirectX. It's pretty impressive, honestly. Of course, if anybody here watched the 3DFX Voodoo video, you know we're well behind. We're well behind in original Voodoo graphics at this point, though. Average FPS of 25. We're almost 10 behind the Voodoo. Or a good 8 FPS behind the Voodoo. Well, that's fun. I want to run this in Forsaken, see what it does there. It'll give us a straight 60 FPS. Generic, do we have a... Oh, we have a Permedia 2 preset. Look at that. Let's go. Oh god, why is it at 320 by 240? Should be able to handle 640 by 480. Come on. Forsaken's not that hard of a game to run. Let's set this up to... Nope, that's not what I want. This is a fun game to test older graphics cards in because you can turn off the bilinear texture filtering and the perspective correction. And some of these older cards go faster with those turned off. Things that should not happen. 640 by 480, and we should be able to... Oh, that's chugging a little. Really? Come on, this should have no problem doing Forsaken. Compatibility Madness says I need that DirectX cube as my screensaver. That'd make a pretty great screensaver. Classic. You know, honestly, that kind of makes sense. This looks like it's running around the high 40s. Given how much slower it was at Expendable, that makes a little more sense. What was... I don't remember what the clock speed of Permedia 2 was. Supposedly 83 megahertz. Higher clock than the Voodoo, but it's performing like a lower clock to Voodoo. So is it? Maybe it's 2 cycles per operation. that was the big thing with the Voodoo, is that basically you got all of the features every cycle, essentially, unless you were, you know, multi-texturing or, you know, multiple alpha filters, multiple alpha blends. At 50 megahertz, you got 50 megapixels, right? That was the big advancement of the Voodoo graphics. And here you can see like 83 megahertz, it's performing like a Voodoo at half that speed. This will be interesting to benchmark. Huh. I wonder. The image quality is not bad though. Image quality is pretty decent. And we can actually quit the main menu. It doesn't suck up our keyboard inputs. So, let's try. Oh. Oh, that's bad. Oh boy. Let's get you down to reasonable settings here. Make sure that's on light map. We'll turn down the texture detail. We only have 4. We only have 4 megabytes of RAM. Can we get multi-texturing back? No. Okay, this will be interesting. It shouldn't run this, honestly. Like there are many GL ports for Quake 1 and Quake 2 for Permedia. I don't think it was ever expected to run Quake 3, but you know, I have to torture it, right? Let's do time demo 1 and a com max FPS 0. If I can type 0, there we go. And this is retail, so we're going to demo 4. Oh, that's bad. Does it just not multi-texture? Oh, we have no light. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it just doesn't multi-texture. Holy cow. Decals are bad. We have no lighting. Wow. Quake 3 must have detected that there's no multi-texture support, so it just turned off the multi-texture rendering. Because if you set lighting from light map to vertex in Quake 3, it disables all multi-texturing in the engine. So like the weird like animated shaders on the wall go away because they're all multi-texturing. Of course, all the lighting gets replaced by vertex lighting approximations. It must have detected that we have no multi-texturing support. Which is weird because I thought Permedia 2 multi-textured, but maybe I'm wrong. What if I set this explicitly to vertex light mode, which disables multi-texturing? What does it do? Let's look at the output from. I do a vid. Does this still work? Vid restart? Still work in Quake 3? Yes, it does. Loading script. Okay, so what do we got here? Hardware with 0 overbright bits. GL linear bitmap nearest. Pick MIP 2. Texture bits 0. Multi-texture disabled. Okay. Hack using vertex light map approximation. I mean, I did just turn it on. I did just turn on vertex lighting. So let's see if we've got. Yeah, no, there you go. GL ARB multi-texture not found. Does not have, at least in its OpenGL driver, it doesn't have multi-texturing support. So let's do that demo again and see what happens. Oh no, it's still just as bad. Yep, nope, that's exactly the same. Ah, yikes. Hey, there we go. Thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte Thorne says, DirectX is short for the family of APIs. Direct 3D, direct sound, direct input. Yeah, direct music for like MIDI and music management. Direct draw, of course, was the 2D drawing API. There you go. Yes, I said voodoo. I said voodoo. Timo says, voodoo who? Voodoo ho? Starbucks is the voodoo that you do. Charlotte Thorne, light maps in this economy? Heck no. You ain't get no light maps here. Let's see. Do I have the mini GLs for Quake and Quake? Because Quake and Quake 2 aren't going to look great without multi-texturing. You know? They're super not going to look great. Where's my drivers? Where's my Permedia 2? I thought I snagged them somewhere here. Yeah, here's the original install exes. You pop in a disk and then you run this and it makes the install disk. That is what you think it is. That installs DirectX 2, because that's what the Permedia 2 is designed around. That's where we are here right now. Oh boy. Oh boy. It must have put the ICD in there already. So otherwise, why would it work at all? Let's see how bad it is. Let's see how bad it is. Games, Windows, Quake. Dump this folder here real quick. I run a little GL Quake. Well, there we go. We've got light maps and everything. God, that's abysmally slow. So let me guess, if I turn on, so you can see this here, right? Where flashes of light have like these volumes of like yellow, gross, like alpha blended garbage over the top of them. That's it was a rendering technique that Carmack put in on GL Quake. In order to speed it up a little on lower end cards that couldn't do the texture rights needed to modify the shadow map, right? Because normally a light source in Quake like lights up the shadow map around it, right? Like if you're near a dark wall and you fire the nail gun, right, the wall lights up next to you. Basically what that does is you've got the texture right at full bright, and then you place the shadow map over it with a multi-texture, which darkens the wall. That's how the shadow maps work in Quake. So if you dynamically erase that shadow map with, you know, this light volume, this spherical light volume from your gun, it lights up. That's how the original Quake does dynamic lighting. And a lot of early 3D cards had trouble with that because it requires a lot of writes from the CPU into the card's VRAM to change those shadow maps. So kind of a hacky workaround was this GL Flash Blend mode. Let me go to the start map here, and I'll demonstrate what I mean. And let's turn on mouse look. So we can look around. Oh god, this is so bad. Jeez. So if we look at a wall, our frame rate improves. But normally you'd expect, especially here with this dark shadow here, because we've got that as a light source, and it's casting light out onto this wall. And there's a shadow here from this column intersecting the light. So normally when you fire the shotgun into the wall, make sure I don't run out of ammo while I'm demonstrating this, it would light up that shadow. As a hack, Carmack put in this flash blend where it just like kind of renders a spherical volume of, you know, alpha blended bright yellow whatever around whatever's making light, instead of actually modifying the shadow maps, because early 3D cards couldn't handle it. You can turn it off with the command that just left my brain. It's GL_flash_blend. And you see if we inspect that, it's currently 1. If you set it to 0, I can type again, 0, now you get the normal Quake lighting rendering back. So when I fire the shotgun here, now it lights up the wall, as you'd expect from, you know, Quake. This is the lighting that we had in the software rendered version. But it can slow down some earlier cards. This one doesn't seem to be terribly affected by it. It's just slow regardless. So if it doesn't have multi-texturing support, oh, it's got to go over every one of these walls twice to run the texture and then the light. Ugh. Runs okay. Well, I didn't say it runs okay. It's the image quality is nice. I'll say that. Whoops, I totally missed that. The image quality is nice. The bilinear filtering is nice. It's definitely better looking than running the Sana Voodoo. I know that's sacrilege, but like, the Voodoo's got some texture compression stuff that it does that's can look a little bad on low resolution textures. The thing is like, it runs worse than Quake 3. I guess it makes sense because Quake 3 wasn't multi-texturing and this is. So let's do a time demo. That's a Tim demo. Demo. Whoa. That's not what I wanted to press. Time demo. If I can type demo 1. Boy, that's bad. That's basically real time. A little bit faster than real time. So this original Quake demo here, the one that everybody uses for the time demo, was recorded at 20 FPS. And then it's interpolated. Well, it's not interpolated. It's every frame is forced to render as fast as it can when you time demo it. So if you have a slow machine, it runs in real time. Oh, jeez. That is bad. Oh boy. $15.6 FPS. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Ooh. But at least it works. The last Permedia 2 that I bought didn't work at all, so I'm glad I've got one. Expect a video on it at some point. And before I turn this thing off and change cards, we're going to look at SpeedSys, because I promised SpeedSys. Timus is a Timmy demo. Timmy! Timmy! So, let's do... Put it in bench? I put it in bench. DOM bench. And let's do a quick SpeedSys. So there you go. We have an Athlon XP Thoroughbred running at 1600 megahertz on 100 megahertz frontside bus, gig of RAM, and our FireGL 1000 Pro. Wow, something broke incredibly badly that it benchmarked at a 22.16. I think speed sys might be broken. Let's change cards and get you an actual speed sys on this thing, because it's not that bad. Just have like really bad. I bet this has a bad time in DOS, doesn't it? That's what's going on. I'll bet. Nah, Doom runs okay. So the VGA acceleration's fine. 22.16, incredible. Yes, Ryzen 9 3900 XT asks 1 gig in Windows 98. Yes. All right, there we go. It's very fast actually in DOS. Turns out that's an incredible benchmark number. So just to give you a comparison, so we did 15 FPS in GL accelerated mode, and if we do software rendering, it breaks. Okay. Let's change cards. Let's change cards. I'm so glad this works, though. So glad this works. Cool. A working FireGL. Alright, next card. Oh, which one to do? Knock out another AGP card. This is one I have tested. This is not from the box. This is my RIVA 128 that I bought for the RIVA 128 retrospective I'm planning on doing. And then realized that it had some weird video output artifacts. I'm going to double check that. That's what this is here for. I'm going to double check those video output artifacts. Don't worry, we're going to get weirder as the stream goes on. RIVA 128, not that weird. We will get weirder, don't worry. Don't worry. Ryzen 9 3900 XT asks, how is Windows 98 not breaking with 1 gig of RAM? Well, speaking of not breaking, it's currently breaking with the RIVA 128. That is unhappy. Wait, hang on. What? Alright, let's try this again. I wonder if it auto-installed the driver and that's what's going on. Okay. Let's try that again. No, I thought this one worked. This is not the one out of the box. This is one I actually bought myself. Compatibility Madness, for whom the world is extremely concrete, says you limit Windows 98 to less, or you use the RAM patch from RLow. I'm doing neither, it's just working. Sometimes you just have a motherboard and chipset combination where it just works. This is one of them. I say that as it refuses to boot. It's not actually refusing to boot. It is booting. There is activity on the LED. There we go. I don't know why. All right, let's get some drivers in here. Drivers. Did I not put Riva 128 drivers on here? I did not put 128 drivers on here. Are you kidding me? Blast it. I thought for sure I already had them on here. One sec. Oh, let's see. Riva 128 drivers kind of suck. You can't use detonator, as far as I remember. For whatever reason, when Nvidia moved from the Riva 128 to the Riva TNT, they just, like, forgot the Riva 128 existed. I don't know why. I don't know why they did it, but let's see. I don't want that one or that one because I'm not using NT or 3.11. One sec, sorry, I know it's riveting. Okay. Gonna use retro. This is Riva 28. What did I call this file? I called it -3.37 -39x dot. Beautiful. Let's get you in the Nvidia folder. Lovely. That's much better. That's especially interesting considering it thinks it's working correctly. Keep the guard virtual driver. Hopefully it doesn't bite me in the butt. See if that works. I mean, this Riva 128 might be having problems. It's entirely possible. Because the one that came out of the grab bag box, the Lucky Dip, worked just fine. Yeah, nope. Compatibility Madness says that there's also a memory program, HiMemX, that tweaks things. Never heard of a Windows 98 install work out of the box with 1 gig of RAM. I actually reinstalled this on stream a couple of weeks back. Just using the regular Windows 98, you know, files pulled off the CD. Just reinstalled it. It just works. For whatever reason. Alright, well that's better. We've got driver install now. Seems happier. And there's none of the little weird, like, pixel interlacing wiggling going on that there is on my 440BX board. Interesting. Interesting, interesting. Let's change resolution. Make sure things still continue working. Because you never know. Hey, it worked. Nice. Awesome. Well, cool. Let's torture it. Yeah, 640 by 480, 16-bit. We've been here before. We've seen Expendable run on a RIVA 128. On paper, twice as fast as the Voodoo graphics. Single pipeline, 100 megahertz, supposedly can run all of its operations in 1 clock cycle. Supposedly. I think there's a reason that Nvidia basically stopped talking about the RIVA 128 when the RIVA TNT came out. That's, it's not faster than a Voodoo, that's for sure. Oof. That is a big oof. All right. I8386SX says, hello, I'm late too. Everything is broken, Garage. Hello, by the way. Says, is that because you don't have your math coprocessor installed? You should have that looked at. This has a setting for RIVA 128s. Where it runs okay. Seems fine. And it seems a little faster than the Permedia 2 as well. Alright, well I will chalk this up as another working card, so that's cool. This should run fine in DOS, so let's do SpeedSys for real this time. For Ryzen 9 3900 XT. See if it actually gives us some... There we go! Actually works correctly this time. Everything is broken, Garage. It says, remember when games would load and they would tell you what they were doing with a scrolling text screen? Heck yeah. Like Doom. Doom would tell you, init, Doom refresh daemon, loading maps, loading sounds, loading music. Or Duke 3D, the early build engine would do that too. It was great. You felt like a computer wizard just running a freaking game. There we go. Raz9, you wanted to know how fast the RAM is in this thing. It's fast. It's fast. Memory throughput of 563 megabytes per second. Everything is broken glass as it felt like hacking the mainframe. That's right, I'm gonna get in there and play some games. Nobody's gonna stop me. Alright, well I will chalk this one up to working. That's cool. This should do a Quake in software. Yeah, no problem. No problem. RIVA 128's a great DOS core. 227 frames per second. Just to give you an idea, with that Permedia 2, we're getting 15. We're not CPU bound. Alright. Turn that off. That is working. Beautiful. Oh, right, this sleeps if you just press it. Come on. There we go. Ryzen9 asks, is that DDR1? It is. It is DDR1. That is just DDR1 200. Well, 100 megahertz DDR. Nothing special. It's not bad. I think I say this every time I pull this board out, but like, if you're in the market for a socket A system, I recommend this board because it's really compatible. It's not like the highest performance socket A board you'll ever find, but like, it just works. It'll run on SD RAM if you want it. It'll run on DDR if you want it. You throw whatever graphics card you want into it. It works just fine. It works with all the early Athlons up to Thoroughbred. It's not bad. It's not bad. You can go a lot. You get a lot worse for socket A than this board. All right, so let's start with something weird. Stuff we've looked at, not that weird. This one's weird. Let me switch to my A camera so y'all can see this. I really hope this one works because I haven't tested it at all. This is the Cirrus Logic Laguna 3D. And get this the focus on here. Come on. CLGD5464, the Laguna 3D. I believe this is the first and only 3D card or graphics card for the PC that uses RDRAM. That's right, that's Rambus up there. That is Rambus DRAM. It's got the weird single-sided connectors on it for the 8-bit Rambus bus. I hope this thing works. I have no idea. Here we go. Let's see, the most compatible PCI slot on this. Let me switch over to that camera so y'all can see what's going on. This one here tends to work the best with PCI cards. Ryzen9 asks, did you tune the timings? I didn't do anything with the timings. It's all stock. All stock. Never heard of that card before. Yeah, it's Cirrus Logic's. So S3, ATI, Cirrus Logic, they all wanted to get into the 3D graphics card game, right? Cirrus had some struggles getting there. And this was the only, I think this is the only 3D product they ever released. And then quickly discontinued. I think there were a couple of revisions of the chip, if I'm remembering correctly, but like the Laguna 3D didn't do super well. Let's fire up the capture card and see what this thing does. God, please work, please work, please work. That's no video, but not a no video beep. Alright, let's try the other slot. Maybe it'll like the other slot better. So Laguna 3D came out, I think, in 1998. Cirrus was on the ropes at that point, 1998. Hey, there we go. It likes this slot instead. Rose asks, what existed before DDR1? Was it just RAM directly soldered to motherboard? So there were a couple of RAM standards before DDR1. So DDR stands for double data rate. So that's what DDR is, double data rate. So of course before that was SDR, single data rate, and we just call that SDRAM. And SDRAM started at like 66 megahertz to go along with like the Pentium 2s of the era that had 66 megahertz frontside buses. And then you had 66 megahertz, 100 megahertz, 133 megahertz SDRAM. I think folks were overclocking it up to like 150, 183 megahertz in SDRAM. But officially, it was like 66 through 133 megahertz in SDRAM. Before that, SDRAM doesn't just mean synchronous DRAM. It also, well, it's single data rate RAM. It also means synchronous DRAM. So it's synchronous dynamic RAM. And the synchronous part is that it refreshes every clock. Instead of earlier memory like EDO or FPM. EDO is extended data out, and FPM was fast page mode. So that's older RAM. We're getting into like early Pentium, late 486, 386 machines, you know, used FPM RAM. Again, it was still DRAM. It needed a refresh to keep its stuff in memory. But before that, you've got like SRAM, which is static RAM. It does not require a refresh to keep its data in its cells. It just needs power. SRAM was most commonly, SRAM's really fast. It's very difficult to manufacture, so it's expensive. And it was used mostly for like level 2 caches. Some early 8-bit machines used a tiny, sparingly amount of SRAM for their main system memory. That's partially why you had like machines that came out with like 16 kilobytes of RAM. You know, along with being 8-bit machines, they could only access 64 kilobytes at maximum. But like, so SRAM I think is the earliest kind of silicon RAM that we had, and then before that was stuff like bubble memory, magnetic core memory. Magnetic core memory flew to the moon on Apollo. Bubble memory, you can still find bubble memory cartridges on eBay from like the 70s and 80s. Mostly manufactured by Intel, of all people. And bubble memory like moves bubbles of magnetic charge along like a ladder on the chip, and then refreshes them. It pulls them around to the side and refreshes them down inside it. Literally, it moves things. It's not mechanical, but it's electromechanical. Bubble memory's wild. I would love to do a bubble memory demo one of these days, because it's such a weird technology. So our Laguna 3D looks a little bit purple. It's not as bad as that Millennium we tested last week that was all yellow, that was missing its blue channel completely. This says it thinks it knows what we have for a card. Let's say no. Sure. What do you think you installed? Windows, you have no idea what a Laguna 3D is. Don't lie to me. Yes, exactly. Ryzen 9 says SRAM is now cache. Exactly. And SRAM, because it's so simple, it doesn't need anything refreshing it. It keeps what's in memory with just just having electricity applied to it. it's easy to integrate into larger integrated circuits. So like if you've got like a microcontroller that's got some RAM in it, it's probably SRAM. So like if you're working on like a Pi Pico, it's probably SRAM in there. Just because it's real simple to just throw it onto a die. Other than the fact that it takes up a huge amount of die area because it's RAM. This is not rebooting, so let's give this a little help. Res9 has to go. It's good to see ya. You can always catch the VOD. The replay will be up once we're done here. Which might be a while, because we've only gone through like 3 cards and it's already 5 o'clock. Oh, jeez. Hello, Maple has joined. Hello, good to see ya. Skip the disc check. It's kind of a weird, like, it's like bluish purple. I kind of like it. It's kind of a fun little filter. Like, if you're running a CRT, you'd probably never even realize it was doing this. Because your CRT would have been somehow color inaccurate. Everything's Broken Garage says, I am in the mood for a nice Pentium 2 build. I did one of those a few weeks ago, and yeah, I love Slot 1. It is one of my favorite architectures. I'm always up for a good Slot 1 build. So this apparently thinks it has installed drivers. Because that, yeah, we're running in correct color mode now. What do you think? I mean, maybe it's a Cirrus Logic, so maybe it thinks it's a different Cirrus Logic chip? No, 5464 PCI. It knows it's a Laguna 3D. Okay. Slightly less smooth window dragging on this one than the Permedia. Let's get some... I've got some bespoke drivers for this thing. Let's see if we can get those installed. Or, you know, maybe we should just try it first with the Windows drivers and see what happens. Laguna 3D. Do we have DirectX? Let's do a quick DX diag. Thanks, Windows. Supposedly, yes. Direct 3D acceleration. There it is. Cirrus Logic Laguna 3D 5464. It says it has 1 meg of RAM. That's not correct. I think it has 4. Hey, there's a cube. It's doing the thing. Everything's Broken Garage asks, Amber, I've never looked, but do you post your driver collections to the web? It's a thing I've been meaning to do. I've been meaning to launch a website for Tech Ambrosia for a while now, and one of the things I want to do is have like a driver collection of like, here's the drivers that I used for blah. Because I do some Googling, I do some hunting on the web, and I find a whole bunch of drivers for a whole bunch of things. There were drivers for the Laguna 3D on like one of those horrible driver file websites that are like, I don't know if that's actually real. So like, how do you find the right thing, right? And like, I've done so much of this testing at this point. Like, I know this set of drivers on this SD card is good. Why not put it on a website and let other people grab it? I've been meaning to do it, and I haven't gotten around to it. I'm sorry. Let's see. We've got 4.10.0000136 from 99. I think I've got a newer version. I think I've got... something in the 20s. Oh, I don't remember. This one, right here, this pixelview.zip came off a freaking like driver file or whatever. I'm like, how do you have drivers for a Laguna 3D? in file tell me? Oh, that's right. This is 1.7.0 B7. This is an early beta driver. Okay, so then I should have... This should be the later driver. Oh god, I didn't mean to do that. Oh boy. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, 7-zip. Cut. New folder. CLGD 464 2.0.0. Paste button in there. Let's see how that works. Copy that path. Paste. I hope I didn't make a horrible mistake. Maple says water, sippy, redeem. Yeah, don't forget to stay hydrated. Drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water. Rose asks, do you think I could get a clear plastic, ugly 90s cooler style that can actually cool a 5900X? I mean, you can just go buy some acrylic fans with like the blue LEDs like wrapped around the edge. Like they still make them. You can just get a modern cooler and put some gross acrylic fans in it if you want to. Hey, Pixel Pipes is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. Laguna 3D isn't the worst thing ever. It's maybe 5 notches up from the worst thing ever. Yeah. Well, the driver took. It didn't have any problems. It's definitely smoother. Moving windows around, that's nice. What does it say for the date on this driver? Still 99. Alright, it's probably just the same driver. Whatever. See if it'll run Forsaken. Let's see. Generic. Go. Hey. Well, it texture maps. Technically. That's... Is that bilinear filtered? I can't tell. I think it is technically bilinear filtered, but boy does it look bad. Also, the mouse is on the screen constantly. I can't actually move it. It doesn't do anything. It's just stuck there. Oh boy. This might be one of those cards where we turn off the perspective correct rendering. It's faster. It's sure not faster. Wow, that's ambitious. 1024 by 768. That's ambitious. At least it does... Hey, it's got a leg up on the Verge, right? It's at least doing alpha blending. Boy, that looks bad. That's so gross. Alright, let's run. Let's run a demo, see how bad it is. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I mean, it's technically working. Oh, 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 what's wrong with the textures? It's not bilinear filtered, is it? We've lost our alpha blending as well. We're rapidly running out of space to put textures, it looks like. Oh boy. Let's try running this at 320. I swear this had more than a meg of RAM. No way. Oh, this won't run at 320, that's right. If I set this over to... Oh, this will only go down to 640 by 480. Don't want it. Yeah. Bummer. Well... let's turn these off and see what happens. Well, the good news is it's not noticeably faster, so you don't have to have the swimming textures in order to get maximum performance out of the card. But, oh boy. Oh, that's so bad. There's a difference in the texture filtering with bilinear turned on or off. But it's not good. Holy cow. Ah, where's my map? Oh, this isn't gonna do anything, is it? Pixelpipe says the swimming textures make you feel like you're in a 3D lagoon. It fits. Oh yeah, this isn't gonna start a multiplayer game. I wanted to just run up against a wall and see. That's so bad. Wow. Wow, wow. We're gonna run Forsaken on this at 320 by 200 if it'll let me. Yikes. Bilinear texture filtering, Mom, can we have bilinear texture filtering? We have bilinear texture filtering at home. The bilinear texture filtering at home, Laguna 3D. Pillish asks, is it worse than S3 Verge? Well, I think I've got a Verge over here we can try. Somewhere. Yes, I have a Verge over here. This isn't actually in the testing pile, but I thought I'd add it just in case we wanted to see, like, if something is actually worse than a Verge. Because this is, it's my nicest S3 Verge. It's got 4 megabytes of VRAM, and it's the 325, and it's a pretty okay overclocker. It doesn't mean it's a good card, but it's pretty good for a Verge. Oh boy. Do you have a diagnostic tool or program? Compatibility Madness asks, do you have a diagnostic tool or program that can double check the VRAM capacity? I don't, other than DXDiag, which was reporting 1 megabyte, which I think is what games would be seeing as well if they queried. Oh, now it says it has 5. Okay, sure. Now it says it has 5 megs of memory. I don't know what's actually correct. I think it has 4. I don't think it has 5, but let's do... It'd be weird for 2 chips to be 5 megabytes of memory, but I mean, it is RAM bus. No, it's... Oh, this is all it'll do. Wow, it'll do 32-bit color? That's brave. Wow, that's brave. Alright, get tortured, Laguna. Yeah. Nigel Rhodes is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. Rhodes says, I kind of wish graphics cards were magically limited by megabytes of VRAM again. We get creative optimizations in games and cool texture techniques. Unfortunately, it's kind of weird because like options exist, right? Like we're told options are good, but because developers can build a game on a GPU that has 24 gigs of VRAM, then it doesn't run great on GPUs that have 3. Oh gosh, that's bad. Oh, wow. YouTube just put up a warning for me that it's not receiving enough data. I'm like, yeah, it's because this game's running at 9 frames per second, YouTube. You're not going to get a lot of moving graphics. Oh boy, that's bad. Yikes. So there's some upsides here, right? So textures look okay, surprisingly, for the most part. It seems to be doing most of the alpha blending correctly. Our shadows are not great, but most of the alpha blending effects are there. Like overall render output is pretty decent. Like the text in the lower left corner, much more readable than the RIVA 128, for example. But I don't think we've got actual bilinear texture filtering here. Not that I can totally tell because it's so slow. But like, I don't think we have completely perspective correct texture mapping at all. Like I'm seeing a little bit of texture swim on textures that are very oblique to the camera. It's like it's mostly there, but it's not quite. Yikes. Yikes. Ah, PixelPipe says, it's very cheap bilinear filtering. Oh, and with alpha blending, the bilinear filtering doesn't work at all. So in this case, so that's similar to the Verge, where you have bilinear texture filtering, you have alpha blending, but it won't do both at the same time. But on the Verge, it doesn't, instead of like cutting out bilinear texture filtering and giving you alpha blending, it goes the other direction. You get the bilinear texture filtering and you don't get any alpha blending. Which, IMO, looks worse. I'm bad-mouthing the Verge enough that I think we're gonna drop the Verge in next. as a quick comparison. So keep this in mind. We've got average FPS of 11, right, up to this point in the demo. We've got mostly okay alpha blending, no bilinear filtering. So let's shut down. And we'll swap cards. Run the Verge. Oh boy, this is a genuine Diamond Stealth 3D 2000. Genuine. I'll pop this out. I'm glad this works. I'm definitely doing an episode on this. I had a bunch of Cirrus cards back in the day. Cirrus Logic was a huge 2D graphics card manufacturer for a long time. Long time. And back then I never heard of the Laguna 3D. I didn't know they were making a 3D card. It did extremely well, as you can imagine. Let's see if the Verge plays nicely in the same slot as the Laguna. Pillish says the Verge will definitely perform much better. Yeah, that's the sad part. Oh. Starbuck Tech, I missed your comment, that's good. Starbuck Tech says, do not make me turn this texturing around. Oh. Francois still says, I need a turbo button. I do, but there's nowhere to put it on this board. This one's too new for a turbo button. I think I've got some older Athlon boards that have spots to put turbo buttons, I think. Because like I've got a slot A board. I think that has a turbo button header on it. I have to double check. Verge. The Verge goes in this thing a lot. It gets thrown in this machine frequently as a benchmark. Rose says there's literally nothing limiting modern manufacturers from being cool again and using turbo buttons. Oh, Nigel Rhodes says I don't own any slot A systems. Well, I have a slot A board. I haven't tested it, but I do have the board. Dirty. Where's my Athlon? So here you go. Slot A. Exhibit 1, slot A. That's not a burn on the North Bridge, that's just dust. Really caked on dust. That's gross. But that's slot A. That is using the AMD 760 chipset, I think. Yeah, we've got the 756 South Bridge. God, it needs to be cleaned. Dust in the AGP slot, that's gross. But that's for this bad boy. When the Athlon was a cartridge. And of course, it takes Pentium 2 heatsinks, so you just attach a heatsink onto it. But yeah, slot A. Thank you for the super chat, Clarjean1. Clarjean says, the GPU is a tiny and simple-minded wizard who can cast one spell very fast. Linear algebra. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, we're gonna see this has a turbo button interface on it. Does it? Oh, it just got a front panel header thing that's not labeled. I'd have to look it up. It certainly has enough pins on this front panel header to have a turbo button in there, but I don't know if it does. Knowing how much power the Athlons need, the fact that this has exactly one power connector, which is standard ATX, makes me slightly afraid. Makes me slightly afraid. I haven't tested that board yet. I'm a little terrified to do so. Alright, so we've got the Verge in the system, so let's get an idea of what the Verge can lay down for numbers. So I have, yeah, alright. Baroza24 says it'd be cool, slot A build versus a Pentium 3, so the only Athlon I've got is, this I think is an Argon, 700 megahertz. I have a Pentium 3, so this is 100 megahertz frontside bus. Double pumped, of course, is the Athlon frontside bus. I've got a Pentium 3 750 on 100 megahertz bus, which would be a really interesting comparison. Let's see. What driver am I running on this thing? $1681, that's the built-in Windows driver. Do I have better drivers on here? I don't remember if I have better Verge drivers on here. Drivers. Savage4 drivers. Verite drivers. Stealth 3D 2000. I think these are the original. These are the original drivers off of the install CD for this card, I think. Let's try with the Windows drivers first. It's an old enough card, it might just work. Same settings as the Laguna 3D. K7 can be, Nigel Red says K7 can be a bit hairy. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Oh boy. I think I need to start looking for some Verge drivers a little more up to date, because that's... Well, I guess, you know, that's actually not too off the mark for Verge. Okay, so who said that the Verge was going to be faster? The whole of the computing world called it a 3D decelerator for a reason. Oh boy, alright, let's see if I can find newer drivers for this thing. The disgusting S3 Verge. That's 4.03 2111. That's gotta be newer. Pillish says, well, at least there's something to see. Yeah, it's true. It's putting pixels on the screen. That's very true. That's very true. Let's see, Goodies Retro, and let's put S3 Verge on there and zip it. Look at how hard the card is trying. It sure is. It sure is trying hard. Seven. Average of 7 FPS versus 11. I mean, a real clash of the titans here, but I'm gonna give that one to the Laguna 3D. Believe it or not. If Forsaken works on here, there's actually some interesting stuff we can do with Forsaken. Because we can turn off the bilinear texture filtering, we can reclaim a lot of the Verge's performance problems. That's really where most of its performance issues come from, is trying to do bilinear filtering on an architecture that really isn't designed for bilinear filtering. So you can see that's bilinear filtered, and we've got perspective correct textures. It is actually doing that part correctly. So if we turn off the bilinear, nope, turn it off, there we go. Doesn't change it in the menus, but it'll change it once we go into the game. Let's run a demo. We don't get our alpha blending back, unfortunately. And I'd say it is still worse than the Laguna 3D in terms of performance. But look at those straight lines on those textures. We've got perspective correct texture mapping. Also, all of the textures are at least loading. So we've got that over the Laguna 3D. Although, that frame rate's not great. Even with bilinear filtering turned off, it is pretty slow. So yeah, that's the Verge. So now you have all experienced the horribleness of the S3 Verge. Congratulations. Congratulations. Let's get out of here. For God's sake, please get us out of here. Okay. Laguna 3D works and is interesting. That's going to go in the good pile. The Verge works, but it goes into the Verge pile. Alright, next, weird card. Not so much weird, but I really hope this thing works. I'm not feeling optimistic about it, honestly. This is... Oh, let's go to the A-cam so y'all can see it. Okay. Rendition Verite V2100. Quite the classic. So I was real excited when I found this for a pretty decent price. This is the Diamond Stealth 2 S220. I was pretty surprised to find this for the price that I did. And of course, oh well, it doesn't have an edge connector on it, or an I/O connector on it. Then I saw the back of the card. Do not adjust your stream. That is dirt. That is just like been left out in the rain or something? I don't know. The front of the card looks immaculate, and the back of the card looks like it's been sitting in the mud somewhere. I'm highly skeptical about this one working. Highly skeptical. But we're going to give it a try. I might need to get out my isopropyl alcohol and clean these rear contacts first. Been trying to get my hands on some Verite cards for a long time. This one popped up on eBay for a reasonable price, and now I understand why it was a reasonable price. That immediately looks better. If this works, I will take I'll take a toothbrush to it and clean up the back of it. But for now, I just want to see if it works at all. Switch back over to that screen. There we go. Plug in our VGA. Thankfully, it does not feel like there's any dirt in the VGA connector, so that's a plus. Let's see if this thing works. That's a no video card beep. I'll reseat it. There we go. Hey, hey! Pickle is here. Hello, welcome to the stream, Pickle. Pickle says give it a bath in soap and water. It's honestly not a bad idea. Just a little mild dish soap and some hot water, and then let it dry very thoroughly. Maybe clean it with some isopropyl alcohol. Yeah, Pixelpipe says, I do think Laguna 3D gets a slight edge over the Verge. It's not a vast gulf between them. No, it certainly isn't. Oh boy. All right. I think I've got drivers unpacked for this. Let's see if I was remembering correctly. Have disk, browse. Let's go to the install folder. And drivers. Verite. There we go. V2K reference drivers. Version 3. Oh, that thinks it's a 2200. Let's try it anyway. Crap. It doesn't have all the stuff it needs. Alright, cancel. What are you installing? Is this even gonna work? Did I just bark my Windows install? Pickle says, I do think the Verite is considered the best MechWarrior 2 version. Their Rendition's cards were a real contender before 3D effects came onto the scene. Like, that was basically like, if you wanted to do 3D gaming in hardware on a PC, get a Verite. Like, it's your best choice. It's the fastest, it's the most feature complete, it has the most games, you know, for the R Redline API. Timo says epidemia of GPUs need flu shots. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Wash your hands thoroughly after handling this GPU. Okay, well, we've got drivers at least. Let's see if we've got 3D support. We've got pretty good, competent GUI acceleration. That's nice. Let's see, what does DX Diag say about this card? Four megs? Sure. Hey, that's rendering 3D. Look at that. Let's play some games on this thing. Mevunky, hello, welcome to the stream. Mevunky says you need to change it to 4x3 is the way. Oh, this driver's got a DirectX 8 interface into it. Very nice. It's quite advanced. No DX9 interface, but that's expected. Well, let's run some stuff on this thing. We'll start easy with Forsaken. I believe... Yeah, we've got a Verite preset for this, so let's use that. This should be a premiere experience. Oh right, I turned off bilinear filtering. Let me turn that back on. Hang on. Options, visuals. Oh geez. Why is it? There we go. Bilinear, turn it back on. That's better. What's our screen res? 640 by 480. This will go down to 320 by 200. You can squeeze some speed out of this thing. Not that you'd need it, this is running quite nicely. Let's do our normal demo here. Well. Verite, show us your quality. That's like nice. It's running nicely. We've got good bilinear filtering, perspective correct textures. I'm not seeing anything missing. We're loading all the textures we're supposed to. All the alpha blending's working. Verite, this isn't surprising to me, honestly. Verite was a good card back in the day. The first 3D accelerated version of Quake was V-Quake. Carmack wrote it for the Verite. I think the V1000 actually, because it was a competent card. You know, this was basically the card you get if you want to do gaming on a PC before 3D effects existed. And it's understandable why, because this is running very nicely. And honestly, like, the color depth and the clarity of the textures, like, it looks nicer than a Voodoo. The Voodoo has the problem of things being kind of washed out. And this doesn't. This looks nice. The colored lighting is vibrant. The textures look good. And it's running pretty nicely. This is about the speed that a Voodoo Graphics would run this game. I don't have a frame rate counter in the corner, but if I hit escape here in a minute, we can go back and check and see how many frames it rendered. We'll get an average frame rate. But it certainly feels close to 60. Which at 640 by 480, I mean, you saw how much the Laguna 3D was struggling to get to 60 at 640 by 480. And if you want 60 frames per second out of the Verge, you have to drop it to 320 by 240. It just won't do it otherwise. That looks great. Verite is a nice card. Alright, so let's see what we got out of this. Quit to main menu. And if we go back to load game, play demo, you can see at the bottom, we've got our frame rate, 48 FPS, 48.5 FPS, 42 FPS, yeah, 42.58 FPS. Not bad. Not bad. Honestly. We can get to 60 on a Voodoo, but nothing else we've seen so far would get there. I mean, the G550 would, but like that's, come on. Not bad. Well done, Rendition. The weird part about the Rendition cards, and I need to do more research into this before I do the episode on Rendition cards, is that they're programmable. They run, basically the Rendition processor is a RISC processor that you can program. Theoretically, you could make the chip do things it wasn't supposed to be able to do when it first came out. So we'll do the same settings as the Laguna 3D, see what we get out of this. So we had, what, 7 FPS for the Verge and 11 for the Laguna 3D? I'm predicting a mid-20s for the Verite. Because the Voodoo will give us 32. So I'm predicting mid-20s. Ooh. Might be running a bit fast on our CPU. That's the same texture corruption that I get if I run my Voodoo graphics on my Pentium 3. Corrupt textures. So this might need a slower CPU to run correctly. Oh wow. Compatibility Madness says, a fun fact, Verite V1000 will be 30 years old next year, released in September of 95. Remind me I'm old. Jeez. But yeah, it's now mid-20s, but you know, average of 21, 22 FPS. When I do the actual video for this thing, I will... The demo is desynced, so we're not going to get any better performance numbers out of this. But yeah, like, certainly the best option if you didn't want a Voodoo. Oh, stream is cutting out for others. Sorry about that. YouTube says I have an excellent connection, but I am on Comcast, so I'm at the mercy of Comcastic internet. Try reloading the page and see if that does it for you. Sometimes that'll do it for me when I'm watching other people's streams. We're gonna charge ahead. The Verite works. Nice. That's cool. Needs a bath badly. Let's see, next one. Let's save that one. We're gonna look at this. So while we were picking through the box, we came across a Matrox Mystique. And like I said back then, I already had a Matrox Mystique, but I never tested it. So this is it. This is my Matrox Mystique. This was a channel donation very, very early in the channel's life. I never got around to testing it. But after running the Mystique last time, and just seeing how utterly bonkers its rendering output is, I figured it'd be a fun one to revisit. Also, I'd like to know if this card works or not, because I don't actually know. So let's switch over to that camera, and Mivunky says reload no fix. Dang. Well, hopefully my ISP will pull its head out of its butt soon, and the stream will recover. I am showing dropped frames. I'll be honest, I am showing dropped frames, 2.3%. But mostly everything right now is fine. I'm streaming at 9 megabits up, which I have 25 up from my ISP. Sometimes that works. Anyway, let's boot this thing up and see what it does. No video, but no beep. I'm gonna put it in the other slot. That's usually what does it. I don't know what's different about that second PCI slot, but that's still a no. Reseated. Hey, there we go. It just needed a little wiggling. Just needed a little wiggling. Nigel Rhodes says, I have been messing with an early Socket 370 Celeron Mendocino / Cyrix overlay system. Managed to get the later Celeron and Coppermine 566 working on it, but nothing else for some reason. Huh. Matrox Mystique! It does already have the drivers for it because, like I said, we tested it last week? Week before last? I think this one has the extra memory, but I don't remember. Maybe that is only 2 megabytes? I thought this one had 4. Francois says, Matrox Mystique. Yes, it's the Matrox Mystique. So when this thing was released, it just got completely lambasted in the press. Nobody liked it. It's the Fallout meme. Everyone disliked that. And I'll show you why in a minute. If this thing will run some 3D, you'll see immediately why. the press in 1997 said it was a terrible idea. Reasonable 2D acceleration. Let's see. Let's do a DX diag on it and see how much RAM we've got to work with. Four. Yeah, see, I thought this one had 4. Okay. So we've got 4 megs of VRAM. So if I run expendable setup, same settings as the other ones. The Mystique was unique in that it was the first 3D accelerator from Matrox that could do texture mapping. Because the Impression Pro couldn't. And then the Millennium couldn't. The Mystique could. And you'll see how they figured out how to do that in just a second. Take a close look at what it's doing. Especially the fog in the background. Semi-transparent triangles in the background. You can see it very obviously there. The Matrox Mystique can do texture mapping because it can't do bilinear filtering or anything other than stipple alpha. So it's like playing 3D games on your PC like you're running a Sega Saturn. It's also doing something weird with the textures. You might notice the weird texture corruption on the ground. That's actually it seems to be taking like pure black in the texture data and making it transparent. I'm not sure why. If that was a bug in the architecture or the driver or just like it wasn't ever meant to run this game, but check that stipple alpha out. This is how Matrox solved their problem of texture mapping. Just don't do any alpha blending. You know, if you don't have to do the math, then you don't have to do the math. Every manufacturer solved this problem differently, and boy, there were some weird methods to it. Even that water in that ditch there, stipple alpha. It gets a little more obvious if I run this at a lower resolution. Considering though, we're nearly at Rendition Verite speeds. Like we've got an average FPS of 18. Not in that section where we were getting 9, but average FPS of 18 at 640 by 480, 16-bit color. Like clearly there's a performance benefit to doing this. And that's why Matrox did it. But like, let me turn the resolution down because it gets a really stark. It's really interesting. So if we turn this down to DOS levels of resolution, 320 by 240. So yeah, Pixel Pipe says, yeah, I'm low-key kind of impressed by it. So am I, honestly. And I kind of love the way it looks at 320 by 240. Look at this. This looks great. I mean, it looks awful, but it looks great. Also, look at that frame rate. I kind of love it. I kind of love it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love it. So I have some good news. On a USPS truck headed for me at some point, soon I hope, is a Matrox G100, which I thought back in the day was just like a downclocked G200, right? So G200 was Matrox's refresh, their reimagining of doing 3D graphics. It was their new architecture. It was all the bells and whistles. It had like multi-texturing support. We had bilinear filtering. We got real alpha blending. It was a good card, right? G200, and of course its successor G400, great architecture. I thought G100 was like a downclocked version of that, like for OEMs. G100 is not. It is an evolution of this thing. The final evolution of the Mystique is the G100, and I've got one coming to me, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what it does. Because it's higher clocked, it fixes a bunch of the rendering bugs, it still doesn't do bilinear texture filtering, it still does stipple alpha, but somehow they managed to get multi-texturing support in there with the G100. I can't wait to see what it looks like. It's like the one graphics card I'm like really excited for is this G100. I can't wait to see what it does. Because this is great. I love this. This is seriously like, it's like playing a PC game as if you're playing it on a Sega Saturn. It's so cool. Well, it's good to know. This Mystique works. That is awesome. Let's run it through Forsaken real quick at 640 by 480, see what it does. It should be just behind. It should be just behind the V2200. Let's do generic. I'm gonna leave it at 640 by 480 because we're kind of collecting some benchmark numbers from that. Oh, stipple alpha. I love it. Okay. No! Oh, it locks up. Darn it. Darn it, darn it, darn it. I really wanted to see what this is gonna do. Oh, blast it. It is very warm. Let's see if it'll survive in this PCI slot. It gets a little bit more wind from the fan. Okay, good. Try and keep you cool, little Mystique. Pickle says so bad it's good. I love it. I love it. It's so silly. Honestly, like, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm a little in awe of Matrox for releasing this card. Like, they had to know it was a bad idea. And then to make a follow-up to it with the G100 and release that, I think it was out for a month before the G200 shipped. I mean, hats off. Hats off to you, Nvidia. Well done for releasing this ridiculous little card. Oh, of course, I moved the PCI slot, so it thinks it's a different card completely. Thanks, Windows. Charlotte Thorne says, Matrox, behold! We spent so much money on these really sweet RAM decks. It's so true, though. Like, so this is the Mystique 220. That has no bearing on the VRAM speed or the speed of the Mystique chip itself, or it's not even a chip revision. It's the same stupid chip they put on the other Mystique. The 220 is the speed of the RAM deck. Seriously, this is the thing that Matrox was doing for a while, was just like ignoring everyone else and just being like, no, we're just gonna put a whole bunch of cool 2D stuff on our cards. Yeah, everybody wants 3D, but you know, we're just gonna ignore them. We'll just ignore them, it's fine. This surely will not come back to bite us in the end. I wanted to today to like, because that grab bag, that Lucky Dip had so many of these in it. We got Matrox Millenniums and S3 Trio 64s. It gets so many of these. I wanted to see if there's a meaningful difference in speed between these in DOS. But I don't think we're gonna have time for that today. It's already like, we've been going for 2.25 hours, and we've got a few more chips to go, a few more cards to go that I really want to get tested. Okay, one more try at Forsaken. And let's see if it can put down some benchmark numbers with a fan on it. Come on. I'll get the phantom mouse cursor again. Okay. Come on, don't crash. That's more like it. That's about it's around the performance level of the Laguna 3D. I'd say, if I had to guess. With the difference being that it is also loading all the textures that the Laguna 3D wouldn't, for whatever reason. I'm seeing a little bit of texture swim, I think. Yeah, I don't think we're quite perspective correct. Yeah, it's certainly better than like not any texture correction, not any texture perspective correction, but I don't think it's completely correct. If you look on the edges of the frame, it looks like there's a little bit of swim out there. It's not bad though. It's not bad. Okay, so I stopped the demo last time around here. Let's see what we got for a number from this one. Better. Well, not better. Better than the Laguna 3D, but not as good as the Verite. 34.37 FPS. It's not terrible. That's not terrible. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Its lack of perspective correct texture mapping isn't super noticeable. It's definitely there, but it's not super noticeable. Overall, I like this card. I like the Mystique. It scratches that itch of like retro games, which is weird to say with a product that was so universally panned back in the day. It was so panned. Like I said, its reputation was the Matrox Mystique. Nobody liked it. And honestly, I kind of love it. I kind of love it, and I can't wait to see what the G100 looks like. Cannot wait to see it. How do you do multi-texturing in something like this? And they must have fixed they had to have fixed the perspective correct problem. You know, because how do you overlay two textures over one another when they're not perspective correct? They would interfere. They'd interfere so badly. Oh my god, I can't wait to see it. Alright, let's shut down. So that Mystique works as well. So I have two working Mystiques. A 2 megabyte and a 4 megabyte Mystique. Yes. And I'm looking around here. There's a card that just came in. I'm like, why is it not here for testing? The heck did I do with it? Why is it not here? We're totally going to test it today. If I can find it, that is. Not in that pile. It's not these. So I teased this one on the thumbnail, and I apologize for that. I don't have the cables for it, so we can't test it today. But I do want to show it to you because this was a heck of an eBay find. It's another Matrox. Look at the size of this sucker. That is a Matrox Digi Desktop. The D-Top 2216. So we've got basically 1, 2 Millenniums. These are Matrox Millenniums. We've got these, I think, are video ingest chips from Matrox. We've got an Altera FPGA here. And then, of course, since you have 2 Millenniums on board, we've got 2 video outputs. So we've got this DAC here, and we've got this DAC here hiding under the metal cover. This isn't actually heatsink, it's just floating on top of the board. Mostly, it's to provide this, which is like a mounting spot for this huge board-to-board connector here. You can slap another board on top of this thing, and then it'll also connect to some more video boards through a card-to-card connector, like a big parallel cable, big ribbon cable. This is functional as it is. It just needs the because it's a Matrox, it's got wild connectors on the end. So this gives you these crazy connectors give you 1 VGA out and then 2 2 composite or S-video in per connector. So it'll drive 2 monitors and ingest 4 video streams. 4 video streams. This thing's ridiculous. It's a lot. This thing is a lot. And I think this is this digital chip on the front here. I think that's a DSP. Same, I think, with the Philips. Because I've seen versions of this card that have an Intel DSP here instead of the digital one. There's a lot. There's a lot going on this board. It's very interesting. And we've got, I believe the 16 part of DTOP 2216 is that it's got 16 megs of memory total. We've got 4 window RAM chips per Millennium. We've got 8 per Millennium, which I think is 8 megabytes per Millennium on here, for 16 megabytes total. This thing's wild. Cables arrive next week, and I will test it. We'll see how it is, because it's wild. That's not the card I want to test today, though. Where the heck did it go? It was just here. I just had it here. I was going to test it today. What did I do with it? Are you kidding me? I am losing my mind. How did I lose track of that card already? It's not in this browser. No, that's the Permedia. That's the Mystique. Oh, darn it. Because we're going to do this one, but I want to do this other card first. So I think it'd be more interesting. Well, at least briefly more interesting. Oh, it's a bad sign when you have so many cards and you lose them. Where the heck did it go? I swear I was just looking at it. Did? Okay. Oh, put it in a special spot so I wouldn't lose it. Promptly lost it. It's another Matrox. This is the compact Q-Vision. It'll focus here. Q-Vision 2000 Plus. This is special because the chip on here is a very old looking Matrox MGA chip on here. Is the Matrox Impression. The Impression Plus, to be specific. This is Matrox's first 3D card. Well, this isn't their first 3D card, it's their first 3D chipset. Originally, these things came out in ISA form, not PCI. But the ISA versions of these go for unobtainium money. So this thing predates the millennium. Please work. It's going to want that other PCI slot, isn't it? Predates the millennium. Also, you know, the millennium... This thing is not going to work, is it? Doesn't want to go. Doesn't want to go. Pickle asks, so they skipped VLB. I think there were VLB versions of the impression. Come on, work. So far, nothing. Not even a no graphics card beep. Throw a little isopropyl on this edge connector and see if that helps. This thing is old. Old, old, old. It looks old. It's got that matte solder mask. Oh yeah, that's looking much better. Oh jeez. Some actual dirt came off of that edge connector. Ew. Ew, ew, ew. Hopefully it works. It's got no electrolytic components. It's all tantalum capacitors and surface mount ceramics. And none are missing. So hopefully... we'll just do the thing. I wonder if it's old enough that it needs 5-volt PCI. No, 5-volt PCI isn't a thing. I don't think. I need a dramatically older machine to run this. I shouldn't. Francois says, Philips, some composite input. Yes. If you're talking about the Digidesktop, yes. Quad composite input on that card. Absolutely bonkers. I wonder if this thing just needs an older motherboard to boot. Alright, well, I'm going to shelve the impression for now and try it in something older later. I'm probably going to have to do the same thing with the Digidesktop anyway, so I'll have to put together something I can run these older Matrox cards in. Bummer! Alright. I think... Blake DMC asks, speaking of Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, I wonder how these old GPUs would run it. Pretty badly. Pretty badly. Pickle says it also checked for a short on the card. Have a PCI postcard. I do have a PCI postcard, actually. It's right here. We can give that a try. Rear of computer. No. What? There's an arrow on the PCI side, but it doesn't seem to make sense. I think it would go in this way. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. Alright, for the final... I know I have two more sitting over there on the chair, but they're just Rage Pros. It's not a big deal. Final card of the night is a Sys 305. Like I said, everyone was trying to do 3D graphics back in the 90s, even chipset manufacturers. Because you never know. Maybe you could break into the market and hit it big. Or you could produce some of the most embarrassing silicon mankind has ever seen. Sys 305. I sure hope it's not shorted. Oh, it would suck so much. All right. Again, I believe I've got drivers already expanded out for this. Beautiful. Do your thing. Indeed it is. This is the exact same card. Pixelpipe says, oh yeah, isn't this the card you threatened to send, kindly offered to loan me? Well, I heard you were doing a thing on SIS graphics, and like, hey, you should probably have the whole experience. But Nathan was like, oh no, it's okay, I just want the one that performs well. You can keep the garbage card. Yeah, that's fair. Pickle says, in my younger dumb days, I thought, hey, this card has 32 megs of RAM. Maybe it'll be better than a Voodoo 3. Yeah, I mean, GPU manufacturers are still doing that today. They'll still, like, load down a garbage GPU with a bunch of VRAM and call it good. That is the most painless SIS graphics driver install I think I've ever had. Beautiful. Let's see if this does things. Alright. 2D acceleration seems pretty good. That's pretty darn smooth. So, oh yeah, let's see what DXDiag thinks about it. Oh, it says it has 16 megs of RAM. Okay, sure. Sure. It displays spinning cubes, so that's something. Wow, the driver even has DirectX 9 interfaces. That's impressive. Oh, it slows down if I move my mouse. Whoopsies. Alright, let's see. Let's do the 640 by 480 16-bit. See what it can do. Hopefully it not crash. Hey, that's like almost competent. Now the thing about the 305 is I think it released in, I want to say 99? If you're looking at this and you're like, wow, that's way better than most of the cards we've looked at today, like, yeah, it's because they had a couple more years to develop it, I think. SIS, not sus, phone autocorrect, sys, 305. When did that release? Do you have dates for any of these? You know, the Sys 300 was in 99. I think the 305 wasn't far after. So, like, you know, launching into 1999 as basically as a, oh, our demo's desynced. Whoopsies. Launching into 99 with something like that, yeah, you're going up against, like, TNT2 Model 64s, which are a lot more competent than that, honestly. A lot more competent than that. Blake TMC says, yeah, looks like it's trying. It's definitely trying. It's definitely trying. Let's do generic primary. It's certainly more feature complete, right, than anything else we've looked at today. But that being said, it was not a great time. So like, you had you had the market consolidating out into, you know, ATI and Nvidia, right? As 3D effects was slowly dying and was consumed by Nvidia, you had the market, you know, turning into this duopoly. And as a new manufacturer of anything in a market like that, a lot of the time it's really tempting to go in and try and make a low-end product, right? Try and make a volume product, sell a lot of things, get your card out there, get your chip out there, get your CPU out there, whatever, and get, you know, some mind share for your card, for your product. The problem is you're not in a competition-free zone, right? Like all Nvidia has to do is, you know, cut some of the die off of their newest, biggest chip, and, you know, suddenly they can double or triple the number they can manufacture on a wafer and sell it as you know, a low-end part. And now you're competing with Nvidia with all of their name. And that's kind of what happened once the TNT and TNT2 came to market. Their image quality was better than 3D effects, but their performance wasn't quite there. So if you wanted the gaming performance, you got 3D effects, right? And if you wanted future-proofing or image quality, you'd go basically for Nvidia. If you're a weirdo, you got a Matrox card, and mostly ATI was selling to OEMs at that point, because as good as the Rage 128 was, the drivers really let it down. However, like on the Mac, their drivers, ATI's drivers, were much better than they were on the PC, so Mac owners loved the Rage 128. It was a really competent card. You got like Voodoo 2-ish performance, and it was feature complete. 32-bit rendering, you had good texture filtering quality, performance was pretty darn good, and ATI's drivers meant that you could basically accelerate anything that would run on a Mac with that card. On the PC though, if you weren't Nvidia, you were playing a losing game, sadly. Because like this is a pretty competent experience, right? Off of this 305, which was the budget version of a budget card. I don't know what they tried to sell this thing for. $79 maybe? What do we got for performance out of this? 640 by 480. $42 FPS, right? So like that's not bad. That's not bad. But I have my Model 64 around here somewhere. Like I could throw it in here and you could see like a Model 64 was actually a really competent card for like entry-level gaming at this point in time. And that's what you're up against. It's why most of these things flopped. Nvidia was just too big already, even by 1999, that if you didn't succeed, if you didn't fly high, you fell into the jaws of Nvidia. And then of course, you know, the G-Force happened. We all know what happened after that. I wonder if I think I can probably lay hands on my Model 64 here somewhere. I was just looking at it the other day. That's not it. That's not it. There we go. TNT2, if this will focus. Come on. TNT2, model 64. Does this have like something like 32 megs of RAM or something? Ridiculous. Anyway. The big problem was if you came to the party, you didn't have the kind of performance people were expecting, you'd have to find a niche fast or die. Hey, Dave is here from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the stream. I'm just wrapping things up here. We've gone for nearly 3 hours now. But, you know, we just looked at a SIS305, which is a super ultra budget graphics card from 1999 that performs about on par with the original Voodoo, which is kind of sad. Actually, what was that, 42 FPS? 41 FPS? That's less than an original Voodoo would get you. In 1999, like, who wanted that? Who would buy it? What was your target market? I think this is just the Nvidia driver for this. Ryzen 9 3900 XT says Mac better than PC. If you had an ATI card, yeah, absolutely. Like, I had Macs back then, right? So like when Jobs came back to Apple and launched the iMac, it launched with a Rage Pro on board. So Rage 2, something like that, one of those. And then very quickly got a Rage 128 on board. And that computer sold like hotcakes, right? That turned Apple around. And that meant you had hundreds of thousands of machines with a Rage 128 on board. Suddenly, it's well supported. And ATI's drivers for Mac weren't terrible, honestly. I don't know what they did with their Windows drivers, but like their Mac drivers were pretty competent. Like, so back then, the best drivers, like the most optimized, fastest drivers, maybe not the best compatibility, but most optimized and fastest drivers were 3DFX, bar none. They're super fast, very low overhead, followed by Nvidia and S3 every once in a while. Like for the Savage 4, Savage 2000, the drivers were about similar in terms of overhead. And then you had like pretty much everybody else. Matrox's drivers were pretty competent. And then way down at the bottom was ATI, and this is where they've gotten this reputation for bad drivers, was back in the 90s. And they were bad. Like you could pull off 20-25% of the performance of a card through drivers. These awful drivers. It's just like, how? How did you do this so badly? Like you can't really see the full performance of an ATI card from back in the day without bringing it forward in time and running it on a faster CPU, because only then can you get over that driver overhead and actually see what the hardware is capable of. It's so bad. These days, of course, the roles have completely reversed, and you know AMD's drivers are way more efficient than Nvidia's drivers. To the point where like you can actually see noticeable FPS gains, you know, running even a slower Radeon in a machine than a faster GeForce, which is wild to me that we're still doing this in 2024. I thought we fixed this. Apparently not. All right, so TNT2 Model 64, same settings as the last one. So we had, what, like mid-20s FPS to beat in this game? This was the GPU that was, you know, this was the cheap GPU from Nvidia at this point in time. This was the one that you, oh, don't buy that. It's too inexpensive. It's too cheap. It's not going to do anything. 96 FPS. The only thing it was cut down on it was the memory bus, and if you didn't raise your resolution up super high, you'd never even notice. You know? Like, it was a pretty reasonable deal back then. And remember, we were gaming on CRTs back in 1999, so if you lower your resolution, yeah, there's less pixels, but nothing's any less clear. Nothing gets blurry. Everything's still sharp. So, like, there's really no downside to lowering resolution for more performance. That's how I saw it anyway. I ran a Model 64 for a long time. That was my primary graphics card. Because I gamed at 640 by 480. Maybe 800 by 600. I wanted the performance rather than the super high-res sharp text or whatever. Like, what are you gonna do with a high-res display back in the 90s? Like, consoles were still running at 320 by 240. Like, there were a few games on the original Xbox, which was what, 2001, 2002, 2001? A couple of those games ran at like 640 by 480, maybe 720p. I think there's like 4 games that ran at 720p. Almost everything on consoles before then was 320 by 240. A couple of Dreamcast games, I think, that were 640 by 480. Low res was the way of the game back then. But yeah, this is just going to get through this benchmark. Like, before I'd have to stop it early because it was taking so long, this is just going to finish out the benchmark. Yeah, Blake DMC says I was one of those who tried to push 1024 by 768, but a lot of games were locked to 640 by 480. There were a lot of games back then that were weird, arbitrary resolution limits. Nowadays, annoying. Back then, kind of understandable. And like we saw with the Verite, maybe not the game, maybe the graphics driver arbitrarily limiting it. So like that average FPS 65, right? Like that's the fastest we've seen all day today. I don't think even the G550 did that. I don't know, somebody rewind back 3 hours and tell me, did the G550 do 60 frames per second? In for a second, I don't remember. I think it did. I think we were running at 800 by 600 though. And it did actually do like 61 or 62 FPS. But like, this was, I think the Model 64 was like $99. That's tough to compete with when you're selling, you know, your Sys 305 for 79, 59, maybe. At that point, like, does it even matter? You can get something that's 3 times the performance for $20 more. It's cutthroat, man. The 90s were cutthroat. All right, I think that's gonna do it for today. This is a long stream, 3 hours. Thanks for hanging with me there. I'm going to play us all out. Well, yeah, fairly okay pull through. I really wish that Savage4 worked. It was the one I tried before we got in here today, because I was hoping I could just start with this one and say, hey, look at this, a working Savage4. Of course, it's another one that doesn't work. One of these days, I'll get my hands on a Savage4 that works. But it is not this day. So, I want to thank everybody for hanging out in the stream today. It's been cozy. It's been fun. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing all these wild graphics cards, and you better believe it, when more weird stuff comes this way, I'll be running them on stream. Next week, I'm going to do this thing back here, which is, that's that compact Sniper 16M board. I think I looked at a couple of months ago, where I was thinking I would like do a video on it, like, hey, look at this budget socket 5, socket 7 board you can get your hands on. But it's a little fiddly. It's a little fiddly to use. I'm going to turn that thing into a Pentium 100, and I'm going to take my PicoGus here, which, by the way, if you have a vintage machine and you have not picked up a PicoGus yet, you are doing yourself a disservice. Pick up a PicoGus. These are great. Because May is May Tracker Music Soar from 1-Bit Fever Dreams. 1-Bit, I don't know if you're watching this, but if you're watching this or you're watching the VOD, do a video on it. Announce it. Come on. 1-Bit Fever Dreams is doing a tracker music thing for May, and I'm going to join in with my PicoGus and my Pentium 100. I'm going to make some awesome tracker music. I haven't made tracker music in like nearly 30 years. I'm so old. That ages me so much. But I can't wait to do it. This dongle hanging off the end is actually a MIDI port. Yeah, you can get a external MIDI off this thing. You don't even need an adapter box or anything. Get a PicoGus. It's good. PicoGuses are good. But it emulates more than just a Gravis ultrasound. I think there's full Sound Blaster support now, ad-lib support, Creative Music System, the old CMS support, like a 5-channel PSG or whatever. Good stuff. It's a great little card. And I'm on the back in thanks. Because Ian really digs my test benches, my 3D printable test benches. So not sponsored. I bought this one. It's a good product. I like it. Go grab one. Anyway, that'll do it. That's it for this stream. Thanks for hanging out. I hope everybody had a good time, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their weekend. I will talk to you all later, and may the PC parts be ever in your favor. Have a good night.